Today I want to make an appeal to all my viewers never to stop thinking and to question everything you see. Now, because people get stuff wrong. Yes, even I want you to question me because yes, I get stuff wrong, which explains why I have so many captions actually in my videos, because I make mistakes. But I hope if I do make a mistake, at least I admit to it. So people are fallible, and there are people, unscrupulous people out there who will try to defraud you because they're not terribly nice, and there are also deluded people out there who might get you embroiled in something that perhaps you shouldn't be involved with because it's never going to work. Now, recently, looking through Facebook, I noticed that a number of my friends had drawn my attention to something called Water Seer, and loads of people had clicked like and thumbs up and gosh and wow and things like that. And I thought, okay, well, let's investigate this, let's give it the benefit of the doubt. So I clicked on it and watched the promotional video. It was a video for an Indiegogo campaign to fund something called Water Seer, which is this amazing invention which is going to revolutionize the world, it seems, by giving up to, note, up to is a figure that includes naught, 11 gallons of clean, drinkable, pure water to people in far-flung regions that are off the grid and where it's dry and arid and they have a big water problem. And they showed computer graphics of these machines, these water seers, supposedly in action, but you never actually got to see the real thing. It was always just computer simulations, and you saw these beautiful African women computer simulations of enjoying this fresh drinking water, and everything was just great. And I thought, yeah, right. Now, a few years ago, I saw something called a gravity light. This was another Indiegogo campaign, and I thought, wow, that looks really good. You see, it was a very different campaign because what they were doing was not making huge claims. They weren't going to give 11 gallons of clean water to all these people all around the world for no energy input whatsoever. No, instead, they were just going to create 20 minutes of one little LED for the effort of lifting a bag of, I think it was 12 or 20 kilogrammes. It's a metric. Essentially, it's a fairly heavy bag. So what you do with a gravity light is you lift the bag, and then you let it go, and it falls very slowly, and as it does so, it winds loads of gears like in the grandfather clock mechanism, and these generate just enough electricity to run one little white LED for about 20 minutes, and then you have to lift the bag again. So if you are off the electricity grid in a little mud hut somewhere in the middle of Africa, that's really good, right? But you can't light whole cities with it. That won't work for that. But, it's better than burning a little kerosene lamp, which costs money to run the fuel and fills up your mud hut with fumes. No, this is cleaner and in the long run cheaper. And yes, one person can read a book for a bit by one of these, and then every 20 minutes they have to lift a bag. Well, a small price to pay for clean and cheap light. So I thought that's a great idea. And if you look at the Water Seer campaign and the Gravity Light campaign, you will see quite a bit of contrast. And I want to draw your attention to a number of the things which are different between these two campaigns. It's not as though you can't, looking at these, think, oh, well, which one do I back? I mean, they both seem so great. No. One of them promises a moderate amount. The other one promises a huge amount. One of them has a working prototype. They showed you all the various, this is our first version, didn't quite work because of this, there were problems, but we made this one, and this one's stronger, and this one works for a little bit longer, and so forth. They showed you all the stages and the actual physical things in their hands, and you showed the designers. They were happy to show their faces in public. They were proud of what they'd achieved. There are no actual people shown in the Water Seer production. What have they got to hide? Wouldn't you be talking to a camera about this great thing? And wouldn't you show a prototype that's actually working? If you had a working prototype, you'd show a working prototype, wouldn't you? I mean, you'd be mad not to. So in Water Seer, all you get to look at is a computer simulation, and with Gravity Light you get to see the actual thing actually working, and then you get to see it in situ in a hut in Africa somewhere actually producing light, and someone reading a book by it and going, oh wow, this is great, so much better than a kerosene lamp. So that's one difference. Do you see the actual thing? Do they talk about the development of it? Does it flipping work? Can you show it working? Another thing that's different is that in the Indiegogo campaign for the gravity light, if you paid a certain amount of money, there are different levels of backer, if you paid a certain amount, you would get a gravity light. They would send you a gravity light. You'd actually have the thing and you could set it up in your home and say to your friends, look, there's a thing, I lift this thing, look, light. It only lasts about 20 minutes, but it's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, just think if you were African and you're off the grid and just, wow. And, it's so terrific. You actually get a thing. Water Seer, you don't actually get a Water Seer. They don't send you, it doesn't matter how much money you give them, they're not promising you that you will get one of the actual things. They'll just be somewhere else, doing good, somewhere, honest. And as you pay more and more money, you get more and more useless rubbish. So for instance, you can pay hundreds of dollars and they will give you a downloadable full colour poster that you can print out at home. Whoop-de-doo! If you pay a huge amount of money, they will allow you to name a water orchard. Oh, a water orchard! Doesn't that sound nice? I've got a water orchard named after me. Well, I didn't name it after me. I named it after my favourite author, but I did that. That was me. They don't tell you that it's a specific water orchard that's going to be in a particular place. You don't get to pick where this one is. You don't get to visit it. Oh, no. You just get to name this thing. Well, it doesn't cost them very much to just write a name that someone's come up with and maybe email a little certificate. There's, in theory, an orchard named after this name that you've picked. If you pay $5,000, you will be honoured at a meeting in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., that's like capital of America. It sounds so official, sounds so governmental because that's where the government is, that's where the president is, right? Oh wow, Washington, D.C., what's the meeting will that be like? Well, it could be just two blokes meeting in a restaurant, because two people, that's a meeting, right? In Washington. This is if they bother at all, reading out a list of the name of all the suckers who paid $5,000 for them to do it, and laughing all the way to the bank. It doesn't say flights included. It doesn't say you're invited to the party, wear your best bow tie. No. It just says you will be honoured at a meeting in Washington, D.C. Well, again, whoopity-doo. So they're not offering you anything of any use to you at all. It's just feel good. And they give you wonderful titles like Evergreen. If you pay $5,000, you get to be an evergreen. I'm an evergreen. Oh, yeah. They are preying on a number of weaknesses in people. They are preying on ignorance. They are preying on hope. They are preying on well-meaningness. And they're also preying on self-aggrandisement. And they know that people want to tell all their friends on Facebook that they've backed this project and are giving clean water to loads of people in perpetuity. But are they? Let's look at this thing again. Would it actually work? Well, here are a number of factors I think you might want to take into account when wondering whether this scheme might actually work or not. Is any power involved? No, it seems that you just build one of these things and just let it go. There's no maintenance and it will just generate water just on its own. Wow, that's amazing. You don't have to plug it into the electricity or anything. So how does it work then? Oh, well, apparently it's wind power. These turbines will turn, which then turn a fan, which then send air down a chute into a condenser. And then water will condense in that. And you then pump it up by hand. And hey, presto, you get loads of water. Okay, so what turns the fan? Oh, wind. Right. So in dry areas where there is a water problem, it's not often that it's really blowing a good breeze, is it? They tend to be quite stable, hot areas with cicadas chirping and mosquitoes flying around, and it's it's not exactly in a tempest. But let's imagine it's a nice day for washing. There's a bit of a breeze, and it does turn the fans, and this hot air is then blown down this tube. What does hot air do to things? Well, hair dryers. Oh yes, fan heaters. Yes, I know. It heats stuff up. So as it goes down, it's going to heat up that tube, isn't it? So you're not going to get a huge amount of condensation. And how are we going to chill the air at the bottom to reach dew point so that we can then collect water? Well, all they're saying is they're going to bury it a few feet down in the ground. Well, is that really going to be enough? For a start, it's going to be warmed as soon as you actually blast a load of hot air down there. And second, just think how much you have to chill dry air to reach dew point. Now, if you've got air because it's so hot, it can hold this amount of water, but because it's so dry, it has this amount of water actually in it, then in order to chill it to reach dew point, you have to chill it to there. Now that won't do a thing at all. You've got nowhere near it. You have to chill it until it's so cold that it cannot hold that little bit of water that's in it, and only then do you reach dew point. You're going to have to chill that air by a huge amount before it'll actually yield any moisture. And then what's going to happen to that moisture? Well, according to the pictures, it's going to be in a big bowl at the bottom with hot air blowing over it. Now, have you ever used the hand dryers in a loo somewhere, and you put your wet hands under it and you blow hot air over it, and then, oh yeah, it evaporates, doesn't it? And yeah, then your hands are dry again. How is this thing going to work? Now, if the air is tremendously humid, of course, then you only have to chill it a little bit and you get a bit of condensation. But in areas where the air is tremendously humid, like for instance rainforests, which are called rainforests for a very good reason, there isn't a water problem. You have a water problem where it's dry. So if you've got hot, dry air, this isn't going to work. Maybe, just maybe, for a few days of the year, the conditions might be enough for you to get a tiny bit of moisture out of this thing, but this is not going to produce 11 gallons of water a day, although it might produce up to, which if you remember, is a figure that presumably includes naught. So they don't show you a working prototype, presumably because they haven't actually got one that works. This, I fear, is a scam. And I make this plea to you. Please, dear viewer, look at this thing, and if it seems too good to be true, think to yourself, is this not true? Because very often it's not going to be true. If it's too good to be true, it's not true, is it? So if you say that by putting some energy in, you'll get a little bit of light for 20 minutes, you think, that's quite good. It's not too good to be true. I can believe that. And look, a working prototype. But if you're going to solve the world's water problems with this magical thing that breaks fundamental laws of physics, and they don't show you a working prototype, and they offer you nothing, beware. Lindybeige! Addendum. I shot the beginning of this video some while ago but didn't edit it straight away, and I've since been back to the Indiegogo site and have noticed a couple more things and have had a thought. So, one thing I noticed was that whilst they claim to have developed Water Seer in conjunction with UC Berkeley, the University of California, quite a prestigious and big and well-known university, what they show is interviews with students, and it's quite clear from the interviews with these students that they're just mucking around with ideas. They're coming up with various concepts for some sort of water collection thing, and they don't actually have a working prototype. And another thing I noticed is that they claim to have raised an enormous amount of money in this Indiegogo campaign, and yet if you look at all the various levels of backer and you see how many people have backed each level and you do the maths, you'll find that it adds up to only about 7% of the total amount of money raised. So where did the other 93% come from? Well, some theories. One is that possibly they did raise that money from lots and lots of backers of all the various levels, but then all those people realised, hang on, there's something fishy here, and they got out just in time, and possibly, and then all the stats were retroactively altered on the site. Maybe that happened. I don't think so, though. Another possibility is that just one or two extremely generous donors donated far more than the minimum to bring the figure up, or possibly the people running the campaign put in a lot of money of their own to make it look as though it was an extremely popular campaign and that loads of other people were backing it, because the more backed a project is, the more publicity it gets and the greater prominence it has on the site of Indiegogo, and then more people will think, oh, loads of other people are clearly backing this, I should put in some of my own money because I have confidence in this project because so many other people apparently have confidence in it. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. Anyway, here's a thought. Some of you may be worried. You may be thinking to yourselves, oh, Lloyd, are you taking a bit of a risk here? I mean, what if they sue you for libel or something? Well, they won't sue me for libel because libel is what you write about someone in print. But they could possibly try to sue me for slander, which is something where you speak out loud in public. It's going to be difficult because they're American and I'm British, so it'd be very difficult for them to use the British slander laws. But maybe it's not impossible. But there are two main possibilities out there. One is that Water Seer is a scam, in which case if they take me to court over saying that I suspect it might be a scam, all they're going to do is end up paying costs, so it's a very expensive way to embarrass yourself in public, so they're not going to do that. Or it is a real thing, in which case I make my pledge to the camera now. If Water Seer is a real thing, there really are water orchards that do actually provide good, clean drinking water regularly to people in arid, poor parts of the earth, well then, I will take myself to one of those arid, poor parts of the earth. All the Water Seer people have to do is just name me just one and locate for me just one working water orchard in some poor, dry place in the world, and I will go there at my own expense. I will pay for my flights and my accommodation, and I will video the Water Seers in action and the happy, smiling people splashing and laughing because their lives are now just filled with joy because of all this water. And I will make a video and I promise to upload it. So it'll be win, 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 win. I'll win because I'll get an interesting video and an interesting trip, and I'll also be protecting the reputation of this channel for caring about truth and fact checking and so forth. My viewers will win because they'll get something interesting to watch and they'll be educated and they'll learn a lesson which they're enormously more likely to remember because of this two-stage thing. And oh goodness, he turned out to be wrong. And oh wow, he then went to the place. It'll be far more memorable for them. The local people, they'll win. Maybe I'll make them some donation and they get to be on YouTube and they get to splash around with the water and I'll film it. It'll be great. They'll win. And most specifically, you, the producers of Water Seer, you will win because you will get a huge amount of free publicity. Publicity far greater than if I had said something nice about Water Seer. If I just made a video in which I mentioned Water Seer and said, oh, there's this thing called Water Seer and it seems quite good to me. Anyway, swords. Then that would have been a little bit of good publicity for you. But instead, if I make one in which I said, I'm not sure about this, I think it might be a scam. And then I do a follow-up video in which I go and show the actual things actually working, and I video myself saying, do you know, I was wrong. If they really do work, that will give you enormously more free and entirely good publicity. So, what's it to be?